Welcome to Arsenal Kids Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Arsenal Kids Podcast. My name is Madi and I'm joined by my co-host Ben. And it is great to have you join us for this episode.
Yes, hello listeners, and welcome to episode number 147.
Thanks, Ben. What are we talking about in this time around?
Well, Maddie, in part one, let's talk about the big news around the women's team, and that is that head coach Jonas Eidevall has resigned from his position as head coach and leaves with immediate effect.
Wow, yes. Let's talk about that. And then in part two?
Well, let's cover off one of the matches that maybe led to Jonas leaving, and that was the home 2-1 defeat to Chelsea for the women's team in the Women's Super League.
It is very women's team focused episode again.
Well, the men are on that international break. We will catch up all that in the next episode, but we would love for you to help us to grow our Arsenal Kids community. So please share us with others.
We would love for you to join us on this adventure together.
We would indeed. And Maddie, I was about to watch our Australian Socceroos take on Japan last night, Australian time, and a quick check of social media before the game, and confirmation on the Arsenal website confirmed that it was true.
Our women's team head coach has left the club. Aww.
He has. Jonas Eidevall joined the Arsenal women's team as head coach in June of 2021 from FC Rosengard in Sweden. And during 3 full seasons with us, he won 2 FA Women's Continental Ties League Cup titles and helped the team reach the semi-finals of the UEFA Women's Champions League for the first time in 10 years in the 22-23 season.
But recent poor results have led to him leaving.
Yes, I think for a club as big as Arsenal and with the playing group we have on hand, we really underperformed under Jonas if you think about the last 3 and a bit seasons. I can understand a bit the season when we had what seemed like the whole team out with ACL injuries, and then there was a little bit of player movement the following season, but the Gunners never quite seemed to settle or seemed quite as good as you feel that they could be. And then this season, over the last 4 games in particular, we had a very narrow win over Leicester City. We had a draw in the Women's Super League to what should have been easily beatable competition in Everton. We had a big defeat in the Champions League to Bayern Munich, where the team seemed to totally collapse in the second half. And then over the weekend, and as we'll talk about in part 2, we had a defeat to Chelsea, one of our biggest rivals.
You said, Ben, that he might have some more time through, though.
Yeah, Maddie, I thought the club might have given him at least until after the West Ham game next weekend in the Super League, as that would give a clear indication, I think, where we are at as a team. But the team, it does seem to be very much lacking in confidence at the moment. And our finishing, it's been poor for some time now. And so whether Jonas saw the writing on the wall, you might remember even at the end of last season when the women's team here in Australia were booing him every time he came on the scene, or whether the Arsenal big bosses suggested that he should leave. I guess we'll never know, but what we do know is he has now left and we can get on with finding a replacement.
And have you found one yet, Ben?
They haven't found one yet, Maddie, but they have appointed Renee Slegers as interim head coach as she steps up from her role as first team assistant coach. She's going to take on responsibility for the team in the interim period, and Claire Wheatley, the director of women's football, has confirmed that the search for a new head coach is underway, and the club will make a further announcement when that process is complete. Hopefully sooner rather than later, noting that after the next 2 games, the women, they head into an international break, and so that will give them an extra couple of weeks to hopefully find someone to fill the gap that Jonas has left.
I heard there was someone in the stands on the weekend who could fill his spot.
Maddie, you're correct in that Casey Stoney, former Manchester United manager, was in attendance for the game against Chelsea on the weekend, and she made herself known through a social media post at the time. But I hope the club don't just go for who might be convenient and instead look for who the best person for the job might be to help the team moving forward.
And as soon as the announcement is made,
you can be sure that we're going to be announcing it right here on Arsenal Kids Podcast. In the meantime, We put our faith in Renee Slegers, who can hopefully right the team ready for the next 2 games. And I hope that this is not a distraction for the players and that they can do the business they need to do so that the team can get back to winning ways sooner rather than later.
Okay, well, let's leave that for part 1 and we'll be right back after this with part number 2. Welcome back, Ben. And let's go to the Emirates Stadium where the team suffered another loss.
Yes, Madi, you're right. The women's team, they faced Chelsea at home and in front of over 40,000 fans. There were a number of changes made to the team that had lost the previous game against Bayern, with Daphne von Domselaar replacing Zinsberger in goal following Manuela's disappointing previous game. And there was also a return to the starting lineup for Alessia Russo, Beth Mead and Lotte Wubben-Moy.
And after a good start, it didn't take long before it all went bad.
Yes, in just the second minute, a forward cross caused a coming together in the Chelsea defence, which allowed Beth Mead to get a header away, but it was onto the roof of the net. And then Emily Fox had to get back quickly to concede a corner at the other end by blocking an effort from the Chelsea striker. From that resulting set piece, we failed to properly clear the ball, and a Chelsea player headed it to Mayra Ramirez, the Chelsea striker who overhead kicked it past von Domselaar in goal, who stood rooted at the spot. And it was 1-0 to Chelsea in just the 3rd minute.
And then it went from bad to worse. Can this even get more worse?
Yes, Lauren James was given too much time and space on the edge of the box. She got past the defenders, put a cross onto the plate for the unmarked Sandy Baltimore at the back post, who just had to put really any touch on the ball and made it 2-0 to the visitors after just 15 minutes. It was poor communication from the defence and the team really needed to do better and pick up their game.
Which, to be fair to them, Ben, they did that.
Yes, they did, Maddie. You're correct. The team, they rallied and they started to put a lot more pressure on Chelsea and their goal as they looked to chase down the lead without conceding any further. But the early lead meant Chelsea had less reason to need to press forward and could soak up more of the pressure at the back. Firstly, Ford drove into the penalty area only to see her shot deflected over the bar for a corner. Then a Katie McCabe corner was hooked wide by Leah Williamson. Alessia Russo had a trio of opportunities and a Beth Mead corner was flicked on by Lotte Wubben-Moy, but each time Chelsea managed to clear the danger.
But then we gotta go back.
Yes, just on the brink of halftime, our Aussie Caitlin Ford showed good footwork to beat the Chelsea defender close to the byline before she curled a shot in off the far post, making it 2-1 and giving the Gunners a chance.
But despite opportunities, we failed to get the goal or goals we needed.
McCabe, who continued to provide really some excellent set-piece delivery, put up a ball that Wubben-Moy got to, but it was headed wide of the bottom left corner. Another of McCabe's crosses was touched behind for a corner by the Chelsea defence. Mornham, who'd come onto the pitch, then had a shot with about 10 minutes to go, but it was just too soft to trouble the keeper. And then, on 85 minutes, another great delivery from McCabe from a free kick was volleyed onto the crossbar by Stina Blackstenius, which goes to show, I think, the sort of luck Arsenal were having in the game and the lack of confidence our forwards currently have. So the game ended in defeat, our first of this WSL season, and after the first 4 games, we sit on just 5 points and in 6th place.
And next up for the team, men?
Next up, we play what should be our easiest game of the Champions League group stage as our interim head coach Renee Slegers leads us against Vålerenga at Emirates Stadium in midweek before we head to West Ham United on the weekend for our last Super League game before that 2-week international break.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up for this episode. Thanks again for joining us at Arsenal Kids Podcast.
Before we sign off, we want to express our gratitude to you for your continued support. If you haven't already, follow, like, and subscribe so you don't miss us in the future. Remember, your love for the beautiful game is what fuels our passion.
And we would love for you to spread the word about Arsenal Kids Podcast, so tune in.
Yes, please share our podcast with other Arsenal kids you know and help us to grow this amazing community together.
We have to journey back to the pitch again soon.
Keep the spirit of the game alive, and until next time.
Goodbye.